Thank you, everyone, for joining today's webinar called Driving the Customer Experience. For everyone's sake today, we have muted all the lines. That just helps cut down on the background noise. Along the way, if you have a question or if you need to communicate with the host of this webinar, please go ahead and use the WebEx chat panel. We are monitoring that and we'll respond. At the end, during the Q&A section, if we need to, we can unmute lines for people to ask or have a conversation with the panelists. The agenda for our conversation today will begin with some introductions, and then a brief introduction of who IntegRhythm is, and then we'll talk about ServiceNow and how it relates to customer service management. And the marquee presenter, of course, is American Greetings. From an introductions perspective, we'll just go through the introductions one by one so that people can associate a name with a voice. Why don't we start off with American Greetings. Kristen, could you introduce yourself and say a few words about your role at American Greetings, please?
Absolutely. This is Kristen Downing. I'm the Director of Customer Experience here at American Greetings. So what that means in a nutshell is I'm responsible for all of our customer contact call centers that we have here at American Greetings, and there are a multitude of them. So I've been with American Greetings just about 2 years.
Wonderful. And Lindsay, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Lindsay Powers. I'm the Senior Program Manager of Customer Experience. I've been with American Greetings for about 9 years. And my role in the Customer Experience Center is managing the release of all software, technology improvements, process improvements, and new development for the call center.
Wonderful, thank you. And from ServiceNow, we have Joe Landers. Joe, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi there, Jim. Joe Landers, Customer Service Transformation Consultant for ServiceNow. I help companies identify ways and means to achieve their long-term strategies with solution modifications and sometimes some business process changes as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I'm Jim Holthouse. I'm the Director of Solutions and Strategy at IntegRhythm. I'm based out of Minneapolis, and I lead our Solutions and Strategy team, helping identify what our clients need and help mapping out the process to have them accomplish their objectives. And that leads right into who is IntegRhythm and what do we do. So first and foremost, IntegRhythm is a ServiceNow implementation partner. We're a gold services partner, and we've been a partner of ServiceNow since 2013. So we've been involved in the ServiceNow ecosystem for quite a long time. And our background is really around business value, accomplishing business value. Our organizational DNA comes from organizations like Deloitte and Arthur Andersen and HP and other consultancy-focused organizations. So although we have great technical expertise, our focus is around helping make sure our clients achieve their business value. And although our conversation today is focused around customer service management, as you can see, we really have done a lot of different things with the ServiceNow platform since 2013 for a lot of clients. We have over 100 ServiceNow deployments globally with a very high customer service or a CSAT score, over 9.3. So we have a breadth of capability across the ServiceNow suite and platform. With that said, Joe, maybe we can talk a little bit about how ServiceNow approaches customer service. One of the questions I think we sometimes get asked is, wait a minute, ServiceNow, isn't ServiceNow help desk and ticketing? Why are we talking about CSM or customer service management when we're talking about ServiceNow?
Yeah, I was just actually asked that last week talking to a client and a couple days ago too. On Monday I was working with somebody and the topic came up, aren't you guys really just kind of IT service desk, IT help desk? And while that may have been true in 2004, we found quickly that I guess not quickly, but we found over the course of time that the data structure that we use to help IT organizations flow more efficiently. That same IT structure that facilitates many-to-one and one-to-many conversations, which you can't have with very many, if any, other CRM vendors, and I wouldn't really call us a CRM vendor, but you're not going to find that with other solutions. That same data structure lends itself very well to customer service. It allows you to move from resolving just one call, resolving one issue, to aggregating those issues and those calls and those cases into big problems and taking huge chunks out of your customer's pain and out of your operational expense budget year over year. So the platform really can be used for much more than just IT service desk, and we've found that out, and that's one of the reasons there's been such rapid growth in the past couple of years. So we're hoping people will begin to hear more and more about the effortless, connected, proactive experience that we can help facilitate.
How is ServiceNow's customer service management different than just IT ticketing then?
That's a good question. It's because you're not looking at an incident anymore. You're not looking at something you're assigning to a group to go fix over the course of a couple of days. You're identifying cases. The cases then get associated to incidents, get associated to problems. You have the full flow of case to incident to problem to change, and that life cycle allows you to continue to get better with your business and extending out to development to product, helping them identify and aggregating issues that they can fix to help drive down volume. It's that case versus incident paradigm is very interesting to see. There's a lot of material out there that shows us what the differences between those two, but it's something that we definitely have excelled at once we've begun to differentiate as customer service management.
Okay. And can you explain a little bit what you mean by effortless, connected, and proactive, please?
Yeah, so effortless is what a lot of companies begin to hit when the very first target is how can we provide customers better self-service. Really no customer wants to call in and talk on the phone for 12 minutes. The only reason they want to do it is because they want to get their issue fixed. If they can get their issue fixed in 46 seconds, they prefer to do that. So we enable that effortless experience where they can go and address their issues on their own through self-service. The connected piece, moving on to the next one, we allow collaboration internally as well as collaboration amongst customers if you choose to leverage communities as well. Those are both things that we enable. And that last one, proactive, is connecting all your systems on the back end to development, the product that all your teams on the back end, and they're highly technical folks, engineers that understand how everything's connected to the IT operations management infrastructure that we so easily connect to. We can drive proactivity through alarming, through aggregation of issues and reaching out to people to let them know, hey, this is an issue right now. It'll be resolved in X amount of time, whatever that may be. But all three of these concepts together really are the underpinning of the entire platform. We just choose to find a way through customer service to leverage that platform. Okay.
And talking about the Servicenow platform, ServiceNow does have a unique capability around the platform. When you were talking to me about customer service management, you talked about the team support element of customer service, and you kind of hinted at that earlier. Can you expand on that for a minute, please?
Yeah, it's funny. We go from, I was talking to someone yesterday about the evolution of mail order catalog to call centers to contact centers to now what we would call exception centers. When we view ourselves as call centers, like I did for the first 20 years of my career, I was in service and I looked at just call center, this is my job, contact center, this is my job. You can tend to be very siloed, and it's tough to, you kind of begin to accept the fact that I've got 60% of my contact volume I can never do anything about. 70% of my contact volume I can never impact because it belongs to engineering, it's finance rules, it's a field service, some different organization that runs trucks, and I can't impact that. I got to focus on what I can impact. With ServiceNow, because of the ability to assign turn cases into incidents and send them off to other organizations, and I'll continue tracking that as opposed to forwarding it off to opening a JIRA ticket, swivel sharing and opening a JIRA ticket and assigning it to some external engineering organization, and no way really to track that, or forwarding an email off to somebody saying, hey, this customer has this problem, or I've seen 10 of these today, can you fix this? You no longer have those different systems that you're using those different tools you're using to convey that with and to request assistance with. Now you've got one platform you're doing it with. The clock continues to tick for Jim Holthouse or whoever the customer is. That clock is ticking. And the concept of what is Jim's overall experience becomes much easier to track. So this team sport of having everyone included in that same platform can really be transformational in the way you run your business for both you and for your customers.
Wonderful, wonderful. And when we talk about, the clock running, can you walk through what you mean by resolving things at light speed with customer service management?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So what this graphic really kind of illustrates for us, and our catchphrase is want to resolve issues at light speed, and we really found with a lot of customers that is the case, that have begun to use customer service management. And we also begin to see there are ways that we want to continue to evolve it. So we invest a ton of money in continuing to evolve the product. But the basic premise of it is that we want to be able to make it easier for people to engage first off, and that's creating a customer portal. I just talked with a customer yesterday. It doesn't really have a customer portal to speak of. No place for them to land to go look for anything. So it's creating that portal to start with, and then it's reducing volume with putting stuff on that portal that can be useful. The third piece is being able to assign those tasks that are associated with any given individual case, individual contact that you have, but sending those across the enterprise without having to have everyone, all 7,000 people in your enterprise using having the exact same license type. Let's be able to assign these to anybody and have different roles for what they can do. And let's make sure we track it all in one place, and let's avoid using different platforms. On that third step that I just kind of skipped over there, you're monitoring for issues in the background, creating cases automatically through IT operations management, doing discovery to figure out what are all the systems that really matter out here, what are all the assets that we have that are part of this entire service management portfolio for us, and which ones matter to our end customers, which ones should we notify on. Between assigning the tasks across the enterprise and monitoring for issues to create those cases automatically, those two things together dramatically change that experience for the end customer and also help reduce your operational expense, but you're also aggregating across the enterprise, what are those big issues, fixing issues to prevent future calls. When we talked last week, Jim, that the concept of first contact resolution, people love it, right? First contact, we're going to drive our FCR up. It's got to go up, up, up. But nobody's really talking about problem elimination. And I mentioned you and Lindsay both last week. I'm looking for I think there's a metric out there we need to begin to identify for our purposes, because we do this exclusively. We need to begin to find a metric that is problem elimination. How many problems are we eliminating that's cutting out 30,000 contacts for you next year, that's giving back 150,000 minutes to your customers next year? We're looking for gigantic chunks we want to take out of that pain.
Wow. Those are big numbers.
Yeah,
well,
they
thanks,
are.
Joe.
And more and more that and I've just had to pick out one line on them, 30,000 for one customer, and the total number of minutes is big. A concept of both ways, right? We're benefiting ourselves by reducing our operational expense by 150,000 minutes, but we're giving back 150,000 minutes to our customers who are trying to use our product. Those both are very beneficial sides of the equation.
And when you give those minutes back to the customer, that's not just, a nice thing as well. It makes them perceive your brand more favorably, right?
Exactly. And working with a travel company last year, the concept was, because most of the customers that we have in the CSM space, a lot of them are in the B2B world, which is have high customer expectations and rapidly changing in a very complex environment. In those types of scenarios, in that travel customer, for example, the notion was, we don't want to make it hard to do business with us. We want to give them back 150,000 minutes. Why? Actually, in their case, it's 1.5 million minutes. But the reason we want to do that is so they can do more bookings through us. The more time they're spending trying to resolve issues using us, the less time they're spending using our product, which is going to help drive revenue for us, adoption, utilization, additional revenue. All those things are super valuable, and it's like we're intimating that, Jim, it's also that customer satisfaction, which drives referrals, average order value, word of mouth, et cetera.
Excellent. Well, let's hear from Lindsay and Kristen how American Greetings is using CSM to accomplish some of these goals. But before we dig into that, I'm sure everyone on the phone has heard of American Greetings, but probably aren't aware of exactly how big American Greetings is. So, Kristen and Lindsay, could you just tell us a little bit about American Greetings?
Sure, Jim. So American Greetings, Lindsay and I are fortunate enough to work for a company where our mission is creating a more thoughtful and caring place every single day. And that's truly what we believe here at American Greetings. And we do that by giving everyone the opportunity to make a meaningful connection. Basically, we look at how we can bring people together. And in today's day and age, we know that there's a variety of ways that people can do that, and we want to make sure that we're providing those opportunities for everyone to be able to reach out and show that they care in one way, shape, or form. So as it shows on the slide, we were founded back in 1906 as a greeting card company, but since that time we've obviously grown and expanded pretty rapidly. We have many different card lines that can be seen on the slide, Carlton cards. We have recycled paper greetings and papyrus, which papyrus is, the top of the line out there for greeting cards. As a matter of fact, a lot of people, would say papyrus is a gift in itself when you give it to someone. So we're very fortunate to have all of those opportunities and methodology that we can create those connections. But we also have digital experiences for our customers as well, where we have e-commerce out there on our AmericanGreetings.com site, as well as the opportunity to send e-cards to customers that when they need to send that quick message to someone, we offer a lot of great opportunities out there to send a quick e-card message out there to let someone know that you're thinking about them.
Wonderful. When I was doing a little research on American Greetings, I hadn't really thought about it, but you're an international organization, right? You're not just in America.
Yeah. Correct, we are. We do have international reach. We have broad, card brands over in Europe. We have presence in Australia, New Zealand, and in the Far East as well. You're correct.
Right. So truly a global organization with global challenges.
Absolutely.
And so I think that leads to a conversation about what was we'll dig into your project timeline, but before we dig into the timeline itself, could you just explain to the audience, what was your landscape like before you started this effort?
Sure. So, American Greetings about 3 years ago made the decision that they needed to take a look at how we communicated with our customers, be it internal customers and external customers. And what they discovered was that we were very fractioned and very siloed throughout the companies, globally and even across the United States, for how we interacted with our customer base. So they made the decision to bring together and integrate call centers, contact centers into one center of excellence here in Cleveland, Ohio, to really raise the bar on the level of experience that we need to be able to provide, since we are a company all about messaging and providing that level of experience to end consumers receiving our products. We wanted to make sure that we could provide that same level of experience to those consumers that are reaching out to us with questions or issues. So the decision was made to integrate those call centers, bring them together, and create this center of excellence here in Cleveland.
Okay, and you mentioned internal and external customers. Maybe you could explain what is a customer in your mindset?
Sure. So when I speak of internal customers, we have a base of about 14,000 American Greetings employees that are in the U.S. and Canada that work in our retail locations to help stock the cards and keep the stores looking great with all of our product out there. And we needed a center to make sure that we were able to support those people in the field and present the best face for American Greetings out to our retail customers. It had been overseas in a third-party location over in India, and we made the decision to bring that call center back here to support those internal customers here in Cleveland. And when I speak of external customers, there's a range. We have our consumers that buy our card products in the stores. They'll contact us, as well as we have our online consumer customers that are either buying products through our e-commerce site or that purchase subscriptions to our e-card websites and need support there.
Okay, so it's true. Yes, Joe.
I just wanted to go back to the point earlier that I think, Lindsay, it can be understated how you can see your customers in 5 different ways. You got one customer, Jim Holthouse, that you see just 5 different people because the organizations that are working with them, interacting with them, just touch points with American Greetings can be viewed by 5 different organizations, 5 different ways: marketing, field sales, the stores. You know your organization better than I do, but a lot of companies I talk with are the same way. They've got all these different lenses that they're viewing their customer through. The customer views American Greetings through one lens. And that effort that you guys went through to consolidate into a center of excellence where you pull all these into one so you could begin to view your customer as one, a one-to-one relationship instead of 5-to-1, I think changes the equation dramatically. And it's not easy for companies to do, whether it's politically or logistically, but it's a huge step. And I just want to make sure we underscore that, Jim, that we don't gloss over that. That's a huge step towards maturity and customer experience.
Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the project timeline. It's a pretty aggressive, it's a massive effort, and it's an extremely aggressive project timeline that American Greetings has executed on. Maybe you could walk through the project timeline, and then we'll dig into some of the other notes that you provided around this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Lindsay. So we began in an interesting place because we did have an existing call center in Cleveland that we were looking to build on in order to bring in and start building as a foundation for other call centers. So we had to go through a really big process definition stage where we looked at our existing software and figured out what we could continue to support and what we needed to grow on. And we really found that technology was the key thing that we needed to enhance the most. And we did, as we've been discussing, really need to find a way to manage a customer one way through one process, regardless of how they contacted us, and that would fit both our internal or external customers. So we went through a process definition stage. We also, investing in Servicenow, had to look at how do we make our processes in the call centers work to the software that we were purchasing, so we built that in. We had to go through change management activities, so, preparing our existing organization to receive a new organization, and also take a look at how the call center change would impact American Greetings as a whole. So, we have 14,000 merchandisers that we needed to make sure we're prepared for changes to how they manage reaching out to a call center and how they manage getting their request taken. So it wasn't just, hiring and staffing and preparing our internal teams. It was managing the business expectations and making sure we were taking in their feedback and their considerations as we were designing. And I have to say, when working on building Servicenow the way we wanted to, we were able to very easily integrate that feedback into the process. We even went through updating our automated phone trees. So we went through a period of implementation where we had to figure out, our PTMs contact us almost majority by phone. So we need to make sure that they were entering in the right information, that their calls are being routed the right way. And how do we make technology work for us in order to expand our software so that when the PTMs are calling us, we're answering the phone and knowing exactly what to do. And then lastly, training. So not only training a new call center on new processes, training the existing call center on how to manage the change, and then also just software. So we were really coming at this project from, I think, 5 or 6 different ways in order to meet our end goal.
Yeah, all of those work streams certainly underscore the enormity of the effort that American Greetings has been going through.
Yes.
And when did you start the deployment of customer service management on Servicenow?
Yeah, December we began the building phase, the workshops, looking at our roadmap and building out requirements.
Okay, and that leads to the discussion of you talked about phases in some of your notes to me. So can you talk a little bit about, smaller phases?
Yeah, when we came into this, we realized we definitely, could not transform multiple call centers all in a short 3 to 4 month period. So we decided we had the immediate need of our servicing our part-time merchandisers. So we decided we would make sure that the tool worked specifically for field sales in order to manage that and to make sure that new call center was appropriately managed. And we also looked at another small piece of our digital greetings call center to see how that would fit. And while we were going through that, we were building out other phases based on really great functionality and features that we saw that we could support going forward. And then we just looked at our business roadmap and thought, what was the best things to hold off on and support the growth of the rest of the organization.
Okay, perfect. And then you also mentioned you talked about making sure your partners were aware of your processes. Can you expand on that and maybe explain what you mean by partners in this conversation?
So when we were working with IntegRhythm in the workshopping phase, we spent a lot of time talking about our roadmap. So what we needed for the initial phase, what we needed for what we're already calling phase 2 at this point, and then what we felt was coming down the road that would impact our business overall. And we were able to talk about that, get really great feedback, and make determinations at that point on what we felt could fit in an immediate phase and what could be better supported going forward. So having the openness in that conversation and having them very quickly understand and provide support for that roadmap was really essential because we had a better understanding of how we could piece the project together.
Okay, and from a selfish perspective, how did IntegRhythm contribute to that effort?
IntegRhythm was actually invaluable in that effort in terms of providing their knowledge and their guidance and what they've seen and best practices. They really helped, Lindsay and I make sure, that we were going in a direction that made sense based on what they've seen, and they really helped guide along and, really make sure that if we had come up with some ideas, we flushed them out completely and really work through the process, like we said, in kind of the small chunks to make sure we were building on our ideas and not isolating our ideas into something that really couldn't be utilized in the future. So they were a great partner in that regard. Absolutely.
Glad to hear it. And I heard someone, and we were chatting about this, American Greetings took small bites for big value. Would you, is that how you'd think about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Wonderful. And so you have this big effort, and the timeline goes to here to, we're in the middle of March now. How is the timeline going? How are things going around this deployment effort?
We are on schedule. We actually, with Servicenow, moved to production last week. So we haven't started utilizing the system completely yet. With the call center, we'll start taking calls and emails the first week of April. But everything with Servicenow went extremely smooth. The project went exactly as we had hoped. We really couldn't have scripted it any better, especially since it was just a part of the overall project that we were working on to reintegrate this call center back into Cleveland. So we are right on time, and starting April 2nd, we'll start fielding those calls and emails in from our internal customers here.
Oh, congratulations. That's a testament to your organization's ability to execute on a project, especially something so big and complex as this.
Yes. Yeah, in a very short amount of time. Lindsay and I haven't slept much in the last 5 months, but it'll all be worth it in the end.
Wonderful. How did you, this is a big project, right? It really affects the business and your customers' perception of American Greetings. How did you get the executive leadership on board with such a big project?
We were very fortunate that the executive leadership was behind this 100%. When we made the decision to move forward with bringing the call center back here, and as Lindsay spoke to, knowing that the technology and the tools that we had, we needed to build a solid foundation there in order to accomplish this immediate goal we have, but also our continued goals of continuing to integrate. The business was behind us 100% and understood that, we need that solid foundation, that tool that we can continue to grow and expand and utilize as our needs change in this, ever-changing world of technology and customer experience. So we were very fortunate, and they continue to support us, and, as we continue to move forward with our, long-term goals of continued integration.
That's great. And maybe once you guys go live, they'll let you take a few days off to sleep.
Maybe.
You'd also mentioned using subject matter experts. Can you expand a little bit on how you use SMEs?
Yeah, so as we went through the project and we started getting to user acceptance testing, we brought on board some key agents and associates that we had in the call center and used them to help with that testing. So we didn't want to just contain that to, the program or project management layer. We wanted the agents who'd be using the software to be engaged in that process. IntegRhythm was great about that. They actually really, championed that. We were able to bring them in. They were testing, making suggestions, engaging with the IntegRhythm team, and learning the tools we were going. So we were able to have them as part of that. Now there are key SMEs for that. They're also out on the floor talking about how great ServiceNow is, getting everyone excited, and they're going to be part of our training process as well. So being able to engage the agents who are using this tool so early in the process developed a great sense of ownership, and we're going to continue to use that to help launch this initial phase.
It seems like that's really helpful for the org change element of it as well.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Well, there's no rest for the weary. So once you go live, and you're already technically live now, and you go business live in April, I'm sure there's an immediate desire to start working on Rev 2. So can you talk about what Phase 2 looks like?
Yeah, so I think we've kind of already dipped our toe into Phase 2, at least internally. So we've begun to build out some internal requirements that we want to start sharing with IntegRhythm as soon as we, get into April. So we want to continue to build improvements to our knowledge management tool, more so internally. How do we make sure our team is utilizing that feature to the best of their ability? We want to look at ServiceNow app support and see how the field can utilize that. All of our field sales associates have tablets that they use to support their assigned chain and store. So we want to make sure they have app support for customer service needs. They can expedite requests or make sure that we're reaching them as fast as possible. We're also looking at chat integration because there is a need for that both digitally for our digital customers and for our field sales. We also are going to look at our digital brands and start figuring out how to integrate more customer service requirements into ServiceNow. And then lastly, we're preparing for additional call center support. So as Kristen mentioned earlier, there's other call centers throughout American Greetings that we want to take a look at to see how we can best support. So we want to get ready for what is probably Phase 2.5/3. So we're ready for that as well.
Yeah, it makes sense to always be looking towards the future. And those are things that are, those top bullets are what's on the roadmap for Phase 2. But you mentioned you've got a lot of things in the parking lot potentially, right?
Yes.
How did you figure out what goes in the parking lot and what order, or how to prioritize what gets put into Phase 2, 3, and so forth?
That's a great question. Some of the stuff that we put in the parking lot was really great features that just didn't fit the associates we were supporting in Phase 1. So things that we thought were cool, but we didn't think that our field sales associates needed, but that our external customers may utilize. Other things we just didn't really have the time to fully flesh out or really train our associates on. So certain parts of the knowledge management tool that we are looking at, we want to make sure we're really ready to utilize that and build it in the best way so we're not going back and doing more work. And other stuff we just honestly, with the speed of what we were trying to do, it didn't make sense to fit in, but we knew we wanted to spend growth time on those and make sure we were using them the right way. So we stuck those in the parking lot knowing we were coming back.
And to build on that, Jim, we're also in constant communication with the business as well, and making sure that we understand where they're going with changes and maybe some additions that they're making to make sure that we're all on the same page. And if we need to make some adjustments or, add something to our phase 2, phase 2.5, we're having that communication with the business as well to make sure we're all on the same page and going in the right direction.
And that ties back to that executive sponsorship, I suppose, right?
Exactly, yes. And they've been key with, coming up with maybe, business needs may change, and if there's something that we can do on our end and with, Servicenow to help support that, they've definitely started those conversations as well, and I think, they're realizing the power of the tool that we now have available to us here at American Greetings.
That's great. When you talk about what you can do in phases, how do you identify, sometimes things have dependencies, so how did you work through that?
That's a good question, and when we looked at phases, with phase 1 and then going to phase 2, it was really, the business needs drove phase 1 and what our requirements were there. We knew we were going to be integrating this call center back from India, and that was the main focus for phase 1 and what we need to do there. So phase 2 is a combination of business need driving as far as looking at what our digital brand customers need and how we're making some changes and improvements with our websites and our online capabilities. But also, to what Lindsay said, it was a matter of, looking at what Servicenow has to offer in the different areas we really didn't tap into with that phase 1 and what makes most sense for where we're going and the direction we want to take. So what we don't want to do is, take 2 steps forward and think it's the greatest idea and then realize it might not be the best fit for our business at this time and have to take 3 steps back. So we truly believe that doing this in phases and looking at, where our needs are within the contact center in partnership with the needs of the business will help drive that in the right direction and prioritize that for us.
Yeah, so you certainly want to avoid rework, right?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. And so it sounds like American Greetings is approaching this, the initial phase perhaps as a project or set of projects, but the vision is really around a customer service program, around continuous improvement.
Yes, definitely.
It's exciting. Lindsay and Kristen, I really want to thank you for joining today and opening up about what American Greetings has done around customer service management. And this is my online version of an e-card.
We can set you up with a great website, Joe.
I got this from a great website, I'll tell you that. And I guess I'd like to open the floor up for questions and answers. So everyone else on the call, go ahead and send via chat in the WebEx to our host if you have a question, and we can unmute you so you can chat with Kristen and Lindsay. And Andy, go ahead if we're getting any questions coming in, just let us know.
Will do. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, if people are too shy in the chat, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. But I'll be watching the chat.
Yep. Any questions out there in WebEx land?
Jim, I have one. Lindsay and Kristen, something I wanted to ask. This is Joe. I wanted to ask if there was certain specific business outcomes with field sales, with your stores, that you're able to achieve, that you think you're able to achieve in this near term. I know you just recently implemented, so it's hard to say just yet. But are there things you're most excited about in terms of changing X with the business, with field sales, with the stores, that you couldn't do with your previous solution, whether it's because of organizational structure, how you guys have come together with one center of excellence, or it's because of the solution? Are there certain specific things you're looking to change business outcome-wise?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Joe, and definitely. I think the thing that we're most excited about that we did not have the capabilities before is to have that complete view of the customer and know, what their previous contacts have been, have they worked on previous cases, really get that full view of the customer that we really did not have before. And we know that it will also add to that personal experience for the merchandisers in the field, which they also did not have. And that's really where, we want to step up. I think one of the best quotes that we heard is that we are kind of the people for the field, that, my team will be their coworker that is sitting next to them in the cube that they need to talk about with the problem. That's what my team will be to the field now, and with the tool like Servicenow to give them that view of previous problems they've had, be able to address that, and make it that more personal connection. That's really one of the big benefits of us bringing on Servicenow, as well as in speaking about what you talked about earlier and looking at the proactiveness of what we can get, being able to utilize the data and the reporting out of Servicenow, which is phenomenal, to really allow us to look at things a little bit more proactively than we ever have before, and see if we have some issues we may need to take care of with our, production, distribution, whatever it might be, to help, stave off those additional calls and emails coming in. So a couple of big opportunities we have that we know will have a huge impact on how we deal with the business in the field.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Kristen or Lindsay? I'll give people one last chance.
I've got
have you?
Jim.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And it's asked, when you started this process, how did you get comfortable with all the decisions that had to be made to move forward with such a large transformation? Sometimes it seems getting starting is the most difficult task. So that's one of the questions that was directed their way.
Wow, that's a great question. I would honestly say that it was probably having a great team to work with on this project, and we actually kept it to a very small project team in order to accomplish this in such a short amount of time, but also having the support of our business leaders, and we would provide what the decisions we wanted to make and how we wanted to move forward, and having that feedback coming back from them and the support that they provided helped tremendously. And it did come down, and because this is such a large project in such a short amount of time, prioritization was a huge part of that, and making those decisions with the support of the leaders and the areas that were going to be affected, played a huge part in that. And I think with the internal team and the support of the business leaders, it kind of made it easy in a way to make those decisions and move forward with those.
So I heard you talk about a small focused team is one of the big enablers of that. Did I kind of summarize that?
That is exactly it, yes.
Yeah. Avoiding the committee roadblock situation.
Precisely, yeah. We didn't have time to do that. So having a small focused team, I think, was one of the keys to successes on this, to be honest with you.
I appreciate that. It's great to get that project accomplished quickly. What was the driver for the compressed time frame? Why is it important to be live in April?
To be honest with you, it was when the contract ended with our third-party vendor. We wanted to make that kind of clean break, and it happens to end at the end of April. So when we got the final go-ahead from the business in October, we knew we had to move quickly and to make that timeline.
Oh, yeah, perfect. You just work backwards, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, Kristen and Lindsay and Joe, thank you so much for your time on the phone today. Other people, if you have questions, go ahead and send them to IntegRhythm, and we'll do our best to get you responses to those. And I want to thank everyone for your time this afternoon, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks for having us,
Jim.
We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.